According to the Wall Street Journal, Gen Z graduates are facing the worst job market in over a decade, despite the average CEO now making over 300 times more than the typical employee. And while layoffs have already reached their highest level since the Great Recession, AI is set to eliminate nearly half of all entry level jobs just within the next 5 years. Raising the question, when did the job market become nothing more than a circus of greed? While the modern job market couldn't be further from the simplicity of the past, when getting a job actually meant stability and the ability to provide for your family. Decades of unchecked corporate efficiency and political neglect have transformed a job market built on newspaper ads and help wanted signs into one run by algorithm driven platforms like LinkedIn, where the average hire rate sits at just 0.05%. Where to understand the root of the shift, I spoke with Brian Creeley, a corporate recruiter, career coach, hiring manager, and HR professional for some of the world's largest companies, and creator of the YouTube channel A Life After Layoff, who explained what he believes to be the main culprit behind this job market collapse.
It all boils down to one major thing. It's the shareholder, the return on profits. Every year, these companies have to report earnings. Corporations are typically owned by shareholders who want an increasing, like if you look at a company the size of Amazon, this gargantuan level company, like how do you keep on squeezing 3 4 5% growth every single year? It gets to the point where these huge corporations almost implode in on themselves because you can't keep on wringing it out. And labor is the number one expense for most companies. So when they're looking at how do we shave costs, it's labor is the very first thing. I was just actually watching this. It was the CEO of Starbucks. He was talking about how he's trying to figure out all of the challenges that they're experiencing. Like it's been like quarter over quarter for the last like 5 or 6 quarters, where it's decreasing revenue for US based Starbucks stores. And he's sitting there talking all about like the reason why he thinks it's a problem is it's the the customer experience and the way the menu is structured and how people feel when they're in line. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, no, it has to do do with what the product costs. And I could, like, honestly, unless I'm being treated completely poorly, I could care less what the customer experience, they remember my name or spell it right on the cup or whatever. It's how much it costs. But he's not addressing the cost of the product, but they have been having layoffs. So it's like his mentality of how do we make more money, or stop the bleeding, so to speak, isn't maybe we should lower prices to get more volume because prices have gotten so far out of whack, but rather first mover, first thing they're looking at is labor cost.
What it seems to be is a complete lack of just a moral compass. It's when do you reach your satiated points? Like I think with the Starbucks example, I mean, as a customer, I don't actually drink coffee, but if I went in there and I was going to get a $7 cup of coffee that probably has like 1,000 grams of sugar in it, and I also knew that the person behind the desk or the counter is making, you know, whatever it is, $11 an hour. It's like that just it feels like I'm drinking like just greed. It's like literally just coffee flavored greed. And it's like when you think about these CEOs and it's like, you know, are they having to deal with the shareholders or what it is? It's like at the end of the day, if your job's on the line, but you're making $25 million a year or whatever it is, it's like, isn't that enough already to now have a backbone to say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore?
Yeah. And it like really quickly, I just did a quick search on the Starbucks. It's like it's worse than it sounds. Even with the Starbucks CEO, he was awarded back in January of 2025, was awarded 96 million in his first 4 months on the job. His salary has made 9,646 times the average salary of a full-time Starbucks employee. Like, when is enough? And I'm not a socialist, by the way. I believe in capitalism. I believe in the ability to earn and provide value and find your own niche and be able to monetize it like you've been doing very successfully yourself. But at the end of the day, like, when is enough enough? When is $100 million or 9,500 times your, like, how does a board of directors look at that and say, this guy's driving 9,500 times. We should keep him and not these 9,500 people. Like, he's more valuable to us than them. Like, couldn't you find somebody that would be willing to do as good a job from some business school somewhere that you could pay 1,000,000, 2,000,000, 5,000,000, that's a damn good salary. Like, and then not be enough, but like these $100 million plus compensation packages, and then effectively you can nosedive a corporation in, a year or two and say, well, I tried to do a turnaround, didn't work. Sorry. And then, we can replace me. And then they bring in another guy, and there's no, like, they give you a golden parachute to leave. So there's no incentive for when you're saying, well, is a CEO, is the executive going to be in, like, are they going to suddenly say, like, yeah, we're going to change how we do things, this is just not, like, where's the moral compass come in? I think this is probably a broader brush than I intend to, because I know, not, again, not ever, I hate to use like absolutes, because there are exceptions to everything, and I've worked for some really really good people in my career, but There are people, there are probably not going to be too many CEOs that are willing to take a pay cut, do the right thing, because to get to that level, I do think that there is a certain like profile, like a personality makeup, and a tendency that is you're more inclined to be a certain way versus another. I'll leave it at that. You kind of fill in the blanks.
I recently made a video discussing billionaires, and I said one of the things that I think to become that is you have to sell your soul. I don't think that you can become a Jeff Bezos without having to lose who Jeff Bezos was at some point in his life. I think you have to make the conscious decision, I'm going to abandon this to pursue this. And that doesn't go all the way across the board because I've had conversations with a guy named Patrick Terry. He owns P Terry's, which is kind of like the Austin In and Out. And one of the things that I noticed is I've met him many times. He's been incredibly kind to my family. The things that he's done has just been just like specifically for my life. It's actually unbelievable how kind he's been. Um, been eating his food since I was, young. It's been a great experience, and I wanted to share him. I've shared him now twice on my channel, and the amount of people that said like I was a sellout. I hope that I made a bunch of money doing this and all these things, and it's like, how are you not listening to what he's saying? I mean, I all I got was an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie both times. I'm not making like this is just somebody that cares, and it's possible. But I think when you look at like from a consumer perspective, if I'm going to go have P. Terry's, I go to P. Terry's because of the overall, everything about it. It's affordable. The employees there are genuinely very kind and caring. The food is great. And you can tell like in the building, there was care that was put into it. But to become a CEO of something like McDonald's, I mean, that's a soulless company to begin with. And so how could you be someone with integrity and then become the head of the ship of an already rotting boat? It's like you have to be rotten somewhat already.
There is the chief financial officer for PepsiCo, almost gloating about, well, we haven't really found the point to where people are pissed off enough that they won't buy our product, so we're just going to keep on jacking it up. We're going to look at, figuring out other marketing channels to get it in front of even more people. And he was like real cocky about this to like, and like I'm sitting there thinking like this guy is so disconnected from the American people, and it's worldwide really, but the American people are struggling. And this was at the height of like when we were having that massive wave of inflation. I think it's kind of picking up again a little bit, but like the massive wave of inflation at the grocery store. And his interview on CNN or wherever, whatever channel he was on, CNBC or whatever, gloating about how they haven't found the point to which people have said we're no longer paying for your product. Well, guess what? They found out that point. Now Pepsi is completely struggling. That guy ended up leaving and going where? Disney. He went to Disney. And guess what? They had the same interview gloating about Disney's how they've raised the prices. They haven't found the price point yet to which the American family is no longer affording the Disney vacation. So they're keep on like, here's the amount that people are saying, screw you, and they keep on like, we haven't found it yet. Instead of saying this is enough and we want to make this an affordable experience, like maybe for the guy from like Arizona Tea, this is the point where we feel that it's we want to stay. He keeps on raising it, and I'm going, this message seems really eerily similar to the Pepsi one. And then I like looked at it, I go, this guy sounds the same. So I googled it real quick. Yeah, the same dude moved over to Disney and said the exact same thing. And it's like, that's the mentality that you're up against.
Exactly, and it's unfortunate because you want to have these constructive conversations, and I think especially since we've become so politically divided, when you call out a corporation for acting out like that, then you're automatically labeled like a communist or a socialist, and it's like, no, this should be unacceptable. Like we shouldn't be eating poison. There shouldn't be to where just in the past 3 years, 30%, there's been a 30% increase in homelessness. And, going back to, I do believe that the average human is kind, but I think that, the people that rise to these to be the captains of these soulless ventures. I think that those are kind of more inherently not as good people, but um, y- just the fact of like to humanize it more, child poverty has increased 22% in just the past couple years. I mean that to think of anybody that has a kid, to think about your family or your kids facing poverty, and it's increasing that fast in the United States. It's it's unimaginable, and we're not talking about it at all. And I think we're having to ride this fine line between being overly or just positive, negative. But I think now it's being realistic. Like this is the what we're facing now. It is unbelievably stacked against the employee.
Yeah, then it's like, okay, cue the AI. Come on. It's like now Oh, no, you got this whole elephant in the room, and like, where is the market? You know, you were in the banking industry. Like, where is that going to impact? The just taking your average branch that you go into. Like, how's that going to impact? Like a teller, for example.
It's going to gut it. And that was one of the reasons that I left too, was because I noticed how we were starting, I say punished, like we weren't getting like punished, but every Friday we would have these discussions of how many people have you taken to the ATM? And I would say, because, same way that I talk on the channel, I would speak with my manager and say, hey, that we're outsourcing our own jobs right now. And they wouldn't be able to comprehend it. And one of the things that I want to say is, when they use the comfort, the talking point of we're going to make AI more efficient for our employees. When I was there, I started there in 2018, left whatever it was, 5.5 years later, 5 years later. We upgraded from a 2011, well, like Intel computer or Windows computer or something like that, to a 2014, and that was revolutionary for us. And so it's like, you're not actually, you truly don't care about the efficiency, because the quality of technology that we're using is already archaic, and the amount of times our systems would crash. And I wasn't working at like some, we were the 5th most profitable branch in the Austin area for one of the top three big banks. So it's like, we had money. It wasn't going to us. It wasn't going to the technology. And so I think that that's also important to discuss. Like these PR campaigns that these, companies, government, just people in general use, is incredibly efficient because it leverages common sense. But in reality, we talk about how expensive things have gotten from 2020 to now. When I was working at the bank in 2018, everybody was talking about how expensive things had gotten from the 2008 recession to 2018. And the reality is we're in 2 decades of incredibly expensive times. Like, even if we go back to 2018, wages still weren't keeping up at that point either. And so it's this landslide that is compounding at a rate that is, I think, unprecedented.
I'm concerned about how things are progressing, and especially when you bring in, this AI. It is it used to be companies would say we're looking at efficiency, we're looking to leverage some tools to help with our employee efficiency, but now companies are starting that tune is starting to shift, and they're coming out very vocally. More and more companies are saying we're investing in AI, and these are roles that I mean, if you pay attention to what's being said, in particular by some of the biggest technology firms, the CEO of Nvidia was talking about this recently, about how there's going to be positions that will be replaced, and who is going to be left behind. There's going to be a group of people left behind. If a productivity tool comes in that increases productivity by 50% in your organization or in your job type in your company, they're not going to just be 100%, 150% more productive. They're going to need 50% less people.
Just some of these talking points of you could say, well, the calculator really changed how, mathematics was done, or the typewriter, or things of that nature. And it's like, if we make it to 200 years from now, will AI probably be resulting in maybe a more prosperous future? Potentially. I think that could be a possibility. But how many people's livelihoods, future generations, is that going to cost? And since we've laid no infrastructure to get to that point of prosperity, what makes me think that when I look back 50 years and I see what we've done, why would I think 50 years from now it actually will be more prosperous? And it's really about saying, yeah, AI could do a lot of good. How long is it going to take to get there? And how many people is that going to be What's the cost?
Yeah, and it's like I try to provide solutions, which I do feel strongly about the solutions that I have. But it is also like there needs to be a level of realism about like what are people like. There's the idealist, and I on some level I have an idealist. It's the solution. I look at it from an idealist. Like how would you do it perfectly, and giving them a roadmap to that. But we have to look pragmatically at like what is the actual reality of the we're told, oh, the job market's fine, everything's good, the numbers are great, but it's like, okay, yeah, we may have, if you looked at charts, because I look at the charts, I like to look at the data a lot, and I kind of try to like watch the trends, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Like, yeah, like maybe there is, the trends are certainly lower than they were over the last couple of years, but um the reality is that are we at the lowest amount of open job postings ever? No. Like it was worse in 2020, but it doesn't feel worse. It doesn't feel better. It doesn't feel it doesn't feel like it is like for the average person they are struggling, and it's like the numbers can be very skewed purposefully, I think sometimes to paint a certain narrative, but people are struggling. They're not getting high quality jobs. Their jobs are being replaced with fractional work, no benefits. You have to figure out, how to afford that on unemployment or maybe making 30% less than you used to. They're not factoring in if it's a 1099, they've got taxes to pay and all that stuff. And the reality is there's just not a lot of career momentum for a lot of people, and especially if you're entering into the workforce right now, it's like I worry about my kids' future. But we'll continue. We'll continue to start to talk about this, and there'll be continued discussions and potential solutions. This is uncharted territory. We're all collectively learning this together. When I started my channel back in 2020, AI was not a thing. This direction of things was not a thing. It was just like reacting and kind of saying, okay, I'm calling it out. And from my perspective, in a human resource slash recruiting perspective, that was like the lens I've been looking through. But the market has been changing, and in my life, in my career, I have never seen a bigger, like we are at the end of an era, like moving into an entirely new era, epoch, time frame, and this is uncharted territory. Like where we go, like buckle up. That's all I've got to say about it. So we'll continue to monitor these trends and be talking about them. But this is uncharted territory I'm speaking for myself. This is uncharted territory. territory for me, and I would imagine it's also for you.
Oh, I mean, I'm 25, so like 6 years ago, the biggest thing was could you get a victory royale on Fortnite? So this
Yeah.
is like, I am really, it's thankfully like my foundation is just rooted in history. I have really good parents, and so it's like I feel like I'm kind of able to keep up with like the trends and the trajectories, but it's taking a lot of work for me to be like, wow, this is really not good. And then I speak with my friends, and they look to me because they're like, I can't get a job, and they're very smart, great people, and it's like I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It's like I can explain why you can't, but and so what I'm trying to do is just save as much money as I can and try to employ them and other people like that. But it's like, man, it's hard. So absolutely, it's unprecedented, and we'll keep doing or uncharted territory, and we're going to keep doing our best. And thank you again for your time. And I know that we'll speak here soon.
Yeah, I'm happy to come on and do these things. Those are fun.
I really hope this video was able to provide some value to you. I know that typically this would be the moment where I would summarize the topics that we've discussed in a more vulnerable and authentic and personal way. I truly value and cherish those moments. They're my most favorite parts of the videos. But I really wanted to bring Brian on. I really value his experiences and his perspectives on these issues, the credibility behind his career. What it is that he's stating puts a lot of emphasis on the trajectory that we're facing. And I think it's really important, as I've said in many, many other videos, that we begin having these discussions. But it's important to change the perspective of these discussions. This isn't positive or negative. We're not being promoting doom. I think it's being realistic. It's what Walter Cronkite used to say, and that's just the way it is. News used to be a moment to share information to the audience, to the everyday American, to the everyday person, to understand the issues that they are facing and how to be able to potentially overcome them, or at least just how have the education or the knowledge to make their own decisions. And unfortunately, we've lost that. But I'm trying to put that back into trying to make that more of a reality. So I'm sorry that it is somewhat negative, but it needs to be discussed. The next couple videos that I will be breaking down very heavy topics, and I hope that I can continue to do the best I can with those and provide the conclusions that we all love. Um, to end this video, I provided a clip that I believe summarizes the absurdities that each and every one of us are facing. It's truly sickening, but I recommend that you still watch this clip. It shows just it just shows how beyond how deep